Hello people, this is a how-to video on how to do a brake job on a car. In this video I will not be showing how to do rotors, just brake pads. This right here is a 1995 Lexus SC300 with the inline 6 or V6, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the front pads are worn out, so I'm going to be changing them. Couple of ways that you might want to do before you start working on the brakes themselves. You want to jack up the car. You want to find a rough surface that cannot bend, break, or even if it bends a little bit, as long as nothing that will break. But you don't want anything bending it either. Just take the extra 2 minutes and find a tough surface. Over here, I jacked it up on the control arm. And then once you get the car jacked up, you don't want to start like getting kind of under the car to do the work. And if you don't have it jacked up in the right spot, you don't want the car to fall down on you, I'm sure. So therefore, you can put the tire off the car, under the car. Therefore, if the car falls and you're over here, it'll just fall on top of the tire and not do any damage to you. And also, I do not suggest you working with your head under the fender, just in case the car does come down. You don't want to cut your head off, even though that would not happen, but it would hurt. So I've put a jack stand under the car. Now, as you can see, the pads are right here, the brake pads, and I cannot get to them the way they are. So, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be, since here, let's say this is the whole rotor, the caliper's over here, I'm going to be turning the wheel all the way to the left, therefore the caliper sticks out. You guys will see what I'm talking about after. Okay, shut off the key. It's warm outside, warm enough to wear short sleeves and just have a little bit of a breeze. So, I'm not sure how hot it is. Probably at least 50. So, as you can see, now I have access to the whole caliper and the 14mm bolts right there. This is your bleed valve for if you're putting new calipers or brake lines in. You would have to bleed them to get all the air out of the system. This is the way the brakes work. And there's two 14mm. Some of them might have a 14mm at the bottom, then up top maybe a slider valve that you just slide it off. Some of them have it at the top, not at the bottom. And some cars, most of them, have these wearing things. So when it wears out, you'll see them starting to make noise. But the way I like to do it, if the tires are like this, look through and just check the thickness of the pads. And you can barely see them, but they are pretty worn. Probably only have about not even 500 miles on them. Not even 40 miles probably. They're pretty worn out. Yeah, this is your cap for the bleed valve. So, we have purchased new front brake pads for it, which we should have bought rears too, because the rears are worn. So, brand new, that's what they look like. There's 4 of them, 2 for each side. So, right now I have all my tools here. I took off the wheel, put all the lug nuts inside the hubcap. There's going to be a couple parts to this video, because I cannot pause my camera because I'm using my phone. I cannot pause it to like do the next step, so I'm just gonna do it like this. To start it off, since I don't have an extension, which I could probably find one. Started off, I got these two 14mm or 9/16. They're both the same thing, except the 9/16 is just a little bit bigger. Not much of a difference though. And then I got the big screwdriver, so I can get in here and get the caliper off it. Then you need a tool called a C-clamp. I'll go grab that to squeeze back the caliper pistons. This way the new pads will fit. If I can find our C-clamp right here. That's what it looks like. You put an old pad on the caliper. You put this end on one end of the caliper, this one on the other. Close it tight, then you keep tightening. The pistons will go back in the caliper. And there's a certain way to do this on dual piston calipers, which I will show you, and single piston. So at this point, I guess the video is still a little short. I can crack the bolts off for the caliper. Then once I get the caliper off, I'll show you what to do after that in my next video. So, I mean, this one flexes. I can get the one that doesn't flex, but whatever. To get a little more torque, you don't need to. I just did that for a little more torque. Okay, so now to loosen these, I'm going to be wanting to go up. So I want to go far down as I can without breaking that bleed valve, or else then you're really in trouble. And then, hold on. A little hard to do this with one hand. Okay. There we go. Hold on. Let me try doing it the other way. It's a little annoying. Hold on. This one's got a flat edge, kind of, so I can just use this one. See, but you don't want it to have a lot of play. That's why I like to use the other one. Because if you strip these bolts, you're in trouble. And if this does not work, okay. I'm going to get these bolts off and take off the caliper. And then I'll post another video on what to do after that. Thanks. Bye.